Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Pajama Party. Today we have with us Idono. One of who I admire, right? She is a musician. She plays the piano, she plays the guitar that I know of. And then she has a YouTube channel where she posts covers of awesome songs. Hi Idono, welcome to the channel. How are you today?
Hi, Yame. It's good to be here. Oh my God. Where am I? I should have left this awkward. It's fine.
Are
Hi,
you blushing?
Yame. I am. It's really good to be here to be with
Yeah.
you on Yame's Take on Things. This is like my first feature interview kind of thing. And with someone like you. You say you admire me, but let's like double back because I admire you.
Okay, let's just say
So
we
I
admire
guess,
each other and let
yeah,
it
it's
be.
nice to meet you. It's nice to meet you too.
Okay, so we're both readers. We love reading books, novels, stuff like that. So today we're going to talk about how the books we read in our teenage years actually shaped our view on life, our ideas about stuff, influenced us basically. Let's start with phases. Okay, so I feel like for me, I had phases where I was reading a certain type of book, and then another phase where I read a certain type of book. So did you have something like that? I think for me it came from Disney books when I was younger. Then it entered into Meals and Bones for sex and romance, and then it entered into thriller and horror. I don't know what phase I
Oh,
was in. Then and then
okay.
now and then now it's more of like fantasy and stuff like that. So did you have something like that too?
I did, but I don't think any of the phases ever like ended. I think it just meshed into each other and just kept like adding on top of each other.
Yeah.
Um, I guess we are both the same because we're probably those girls in class who are always carrying a book, or like you have to go up a family event and then you carry a book along. And father is like, "Why are you carrying the books?" Like, I might get bored at this party.
Exactly. Just in
we
case.
seem exactly we seem like the same kind of people. So we always had a
Yeah.
book. Yeah, I used to like reading a lot. I think that I was a lot smarter when I was younger because I used to read so much. I don't read so much these days, so I can't speak on that. So I started reading random books when I was. My dad bought a lot of books. He likes to read a lot, so he bought a lot of books for us to read. And thankfully, I got that reading thing from him, so I used to read a lot. And he would just buy more books. We just kept on reading and reading. And like every holiday in secondary school, when my mates were out in computer school doing things to improve their okay, my dad would buy me like a whole bag full of books, novels or whole bag full of books, and I would just be reading for the whole holiday because that was all I had
Wow.
to do. So
That sounds
I
very
started
cool.
reading no normal small children's books now. We always had open day in my primary school. So on open day, they would sell like the school will invite people to come and sell books in school. And
Hmm.
then they will bring like, a lot of different books, like children's books and stories. I was like, Daddy, come for open day to buy me books. So I have one here. I showed you.
Yeah.
So like these are the kind of books that had made me start reading. This is like a small fact, a book about fact and
Mm.
science. I wanted to be an astronaut when I was small. So I used to read all about science stuff. That dream has sailed. It's not
What
there
did you
anymore.
what did you study in school? Let's just see the
So
contradiction.
yeah, it's a long story. I studied music in school,
Okay,
right?
just let's
But in
just leave it
secondary
like
school,
that.
yeah, well, I was in science class, so I just life just happens. So
Yeah.
like tiny books like this. Look at this book now has Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and they
Mm.
have like little bits of information about random things that
So it's
kept
like
me
a
very
mixture of
interested.
like an atlas and
Yeah,
an
exact.
encyclopedia.
I even have an atlas here just to show you how deep it was. Like ancient books, man. Like we had a lot of those. So these are the books I started reading first, and because I like to read, my dad used to buy me more. And I started reading novels. In Enlighten was
Mm.
my first proper novel
Who what was the name of
influence.
that book? What's the popular one?
She had famous five, secret seven.
Exactly. Famous
You
five.
read them too. They were
George.
amazing. Oh my god.
George.
I
Yeah.
know. I love those books so much. I love them so much. I wish I
Mm.
could be those children, but life. First of all, that's England. We're in Africa. We don't have
Exactly.
meadows and castles and hidden places in people's houses. So It was just to indulge. It
Yeah,
was just to indulge. It was very nice though. So aside from Enlighten, which is where my studio name comes from,
which
Claire
is
and Blighted.
tell us.
Or have a pseudonym. If I say it now, it won't be a pseudonym anymore.
Okay, yeah, let's keep it secret for now.
Yeah, yeah, quite secret. So yeah. So from there, I never really read romance novels. I never really found them. I thought they were cliche and they all ended the same way. So I don't. I didn't used to read them. Yeah, maybe I read one or two and I was like, will I try this again? I'm not sure. It was too much for me. I just let it alone. Then I started reading like hardcore books like Harry Potter. Oh,
Mm.
Jesus. Then I
Mm-hmm.
read Lord of the Rings. Then whenever I saw a movie and there was a book of it, I would read it. So eventually I read Twilight like in university.
Mm.
I read Aragon, uh, just stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was like secondary school. So when I started reading the thick books. Primary
Mm.
school we read school literature.
Yeah.
Ada was a girl, something the sugar girl,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
boy with a
Is it
snake.
goes to school? Mm-hmm.
Right. So that was it. That was my progression until now. I'm still basically reading those old books,
Mm.
and I met you through a book club, through your book club, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
made me read a lot more books than I would read normally, and I'm grateful for that because I wouldn't have read some of those books ever.
Me
Like I
neither.
stopped reading in SS1. It was frustrating. I was in
Mm.
science class. So immediately I got like physics and chemistry textbooks. I just stopped reading other books, period. And I just
Mm-hmm.
never got back to how I used to be. So
Well, I think for me, yeah, even though I said there were like distinct phases based on okay, the number of books I read in that period that had the same theme, yeah, it was always like a mixture of different things at the same time. Anything I could lay my hands on. At first, it was okay, like you said, my father was the same. We had like a bookshelf in our childhood home where like there were books from Wole Soyinka, Olarutimi, all those like African authors, and they were just there. And I never saw my father reading novels. Like he used to read his school and research literature, but I never saw him reading novels. So I
wow.
always wondered, okay, maybe I'd already read everything. So
Before, so he kept them for you guys to read.
so I every day I would just go there and just like pass my hand through the books. I'm like, oh, okay, let's try this one. And so it was just like that throughout my childhood. So I read some books that normally wouldn't have read as a child, like things like Lion and the Jewel. What was the other one?
Wow.
Girls at War. Some
You're
books
reading
that
Trinka, man.
you understand.
You are hardcore, bro.
And
Hardcore, bro.
ask me what those books are right now. I do not know. Like I can't remember. But they were there. I read them and they kind of influenced or they kind of like added to my zeal to want to read more because I'm like, okay, when I'm done with these books in this shelf, what next? And my father was not the one to buy books like constantly. So for me, it was just okay, who has books that I can borrow for now? So I borrowed books. And then my senior ones, my elder sisters used to buy books. They used to buy Mills and Bones and they used to hide it in their rooms. So I'm like, okay, what is about those books that are different from the ones in the parlor and why are they
That they
hiding?
have to hide it.
So I used to sneak in and go and like, okay, I hope they're not watching this video. But anyway, so I used to sneak in and go and read those books, Mills and Bones, Harley Quinn, all those, series of books. And I feel like now getting to the next aspect after we talked about progression of books, the next one is actually the influence and your view on the world, right? Because I felt like at a young age, I realized that the world was not just about romance. Like it was easy
Mhm.
for me to just spot immediately. Like I read one, two, three, four. I'm like, okay, is there anything more to
Anything
this?
more?
Is there anything more to this sequence of books? The same story, girl meets boy, blah. So I'm like, okay, what else is out there? So I think from a young age, I was able to know that it was not just about romance, right? And there were certain stereotypes that even though I did not know what the alternatives were, I just knew it can't just be it. Like, are you people saying that I'm gonna be this girl? No, I don't think
I
so.
cannot be.
from your earliest, like your young age? Like, what were the things you saw in books that you're like, okay, is this real life or not? Did they influence your day-to-day decisions and stuff like that?
Yeah, I guess they did. Well, I would say I became conscious of how they influenced me when I was like in my early teens, 10, 11, 12. That was like secondary school. When I was
Mm-hmm.
younger, I didn't know what I read. I'm
Exactly.
sure they influenced me, right? But I can't pick it out that it was at this particular moment that so and so influenced me.
Yeah.
Do you get? Because I remember I used to read, my dad used to buy these annotated Shakespeare and the old classics, but they were like the small children bite-sized form.
Oh, okay.
I was reading um King Lear and and
Julius Caesar.
did you get all the thick Shakespeare book in like small forms? I got the gist of the story, right? Romeo
Yeah.
and Juliet. But I didn't read the thick books. I think I tried to read Macbeth once in secondary school. I never got past the first page, like the original book. The English was like I was like thou
This is not
darest wait.
English.
No, bro, I never got past it. It was just so I could fulfill the let me shall finish the book, but I couldn't do it. And I did
Yeah.
literature in school, so we now read
Same.
some. I remember reading Lord of the Flies. Did you ever read that book?
Mm.
Ah,
Do you know
there was
that
a
I
way I
haven't?
felt when I read that book. I was
Do
frustrated.
do you know I haven't finished that book? Like, I got to a point where I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna chill for some time. I'll come back. I never went back. Like, it's the one where the boys were lost in an island, right? And they were trying to figure out like a
Yeah,
society. Okay, I would have to go back and read
you
that book.
got the
Thank you for
gist.
reminding me.
Oh, that book ended
Yeah.
in a very tough way, man. As in, it took me a while to process that ending. But
Yeah.
that was like senior secondary school. I think
Hmm.
junior secondary school was where I had a bulk of experience. So I got the ebooks of some of the classics from like my cousins or so. So that was where I read Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings.
Mm.
So I'd seen the movies when I was younger, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was not like jamming like that. I used to watch a lot of old movies to come by that. So I started to read the books. So Harry Potter was 7 books, I think.
Hmm.
Lord of the Rings was
Three.
um it was 3 that most people know, but there are like a lot more books in the series.
Okay, The
So like
Hobbit.
there's the Lord of the Rings, which everybody knows, which is the Two Towers, Fellowship of the Ring, and Return of the King. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the Hobbit. There are 3 separate books again.
Yeah.
There's the origin of Smaug, and this was a long.
Hmm.
Then there was now a book about the origin of Middle Earth called the Silmarillion. It was sharing in that
Oh,
collection of books. Sha. So I read like the inner. I was like, my mates are doing this. I'm here reading books. Is it making sense?
what are you doing
I
in your
read,
life?
yeah, no. I'm telling you. Then I read all the Harry Potter books. Then it was when I got to Narnia that things
Mm.
started to really shift for me. Because like
Mm.
C.S. Lewis, I don't know what was going on in that man's head, but the man was doing something. You get me now?
And you know the funny thing, C.S. Lewis was actually writing for kids. Chronicles of the Narnia. If you look at the wording and the type of the way he puts
Yeah,
his sentences, they were
it's a
supposed to be like for
children's book,
children. But then
but
you
it's
ask
not.
yourself, are we really talking about children?
I mean, it was crazy. So then, when I read C.S. Lewis books, when I read Narnia, all the 7 books in Narnia series, and then I now read the Tolkien again, that's
Mm.
the Lord of the Rings again. C.S. Lewis started to make me. He was the one who got me to question my faith. It
Mm.
was very interesting because the Chronicles of Narnia was like a parallel of Christianity, right?
Mm.
So it was telling the story of Christianity in a different way. But he brought out some very important questions that I had never thought about before. He's like he's trying to tell you, okay, Christianity is good and all that, but there are sides to it that everybody has to think about. Did you get? I was
Yeah,
like, I'm too
yeah.
young for this.
Makes you question
I
things.
can't be
Yeah.
doing this. Like, it was stressful. And around the same time, I would say I made the mistake, but I read I think the Da Vinci Code.
Hmm.
So everything was really up and down in my small teenage head. I was stressed. I'm
Yeah.
like, what's going on? I didn't sign up for
Hmm.
this. All I wanted to do was read. So it gave me a lot of There's a lot of cognitive dissonance,
Yeah, cognitive
cognitive
dissonance.
dissonance
Yeah.
that I had to now start resolving one by one. But I'm really, really glad for it. And then I was really glad when I found out that C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien were very good friends in real life. And that the
Wow.
Lord of the Rings too is also some kind of parallel, but not as.
Mm,
I was
not
like,
that serious. Yeah.
I am soaking up greatness.
Yeah, like I totally understand what you're saying. And for me, like you said, I'm very grateful for those books because even though I haven't read Lord of the Rings, yeah, my bad. But there are books that I know that I definitely will read in this lifetime. But the thing is, I'm grateful for them because while other people or most people our age were reading, the cliche
News
books
and
and stuff
bones.
like that, at a younger age, I was already able to start to ask myself, okay, some existential crisis kind of thing. Oh, what is life? What is my
What
purpose
is
on this
life?
earth? And yes, those things have their downsides because it obviously onset of depression and stuff like that. But it also helps you think. It helps you go inward and be like, okay, you know what? There is what we know and there's what we don't know, and how do we reconcile the both of them? And sometimes I read some of these books and I'm like, where are these people getting this inspiration, for God's sake? Are they humans? Like, are they normal people?
Somebody else is thinking.
Yeah. You mentioned Shakespeare. Yes, I forgot to mention my dad had actually had Shakespeare books too in the house, but I could never read any of them from
They're
home.
stressful,
Like, I
bro.
couldn't. Like, it was just, was like, what's this? So when we were in school, secondary school, and junior and senior secondary, like, they had this lamb tales from Shakespeare where they summarize the stories and in normal English, right? So we read like Tempest, Taming of the Shrew, Midsummer's Night's Dream, and all those ones. And I started getting interested. Okay, right. So Shakespeare is not actually that bad, right? It's just because it's the popular Shakespeare. There must be something he's writing that makes people think he's awesome and great. So
Right.
I gave it a chance and read those ones first. And then as I grew older, we were supposed to use Hamlet for one of our, is it WAEC or GSC? I can't remember. So we're supposed to be using one Hamlet. And there was this version that it was a normal Shakespeare writing, but on the side of each page there was a translation of each of the weird words, right? So
Oh,
each
mad
line,
though.
right? Each line. So let's say a page had like 24 lines. Each line had the interpretations for everything that was weird in, in a particular line. So that was when I started enjoying Shakespeare, because when I read Hamlet, I was like, oh, nice. And
I mean, did you realize that Hamlet is the Lion King?
the Lion King.
That Lion King Simba story.
Yeah, like there's a connection, right? But it's not like complete.
It's not a copy and
Yeah,
paste
yeah.
here.
So yeah, obviously the Simba and Lion story, they took a little bit of that. But yeah, I'm just like, when I read Shakespeare, that's when I realized that, okay, in as much as there's usually romance in life because you cannot run away from love and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
but there are other things surrounding it that make it complicated. So it made me understand that, okay, Mills and Boons, okay, but
It did there, it
Shakespeare,
did
he talked about suicide, he talked about mental illness, talked about revenge, he talked about
there.
pride,
Every
he talked about so many things that, like, okay, fine, yes, we love each other, yes, but there are other things going on right now in this world. Let's can we focus on that? Yeah,
yes,
can we?
a lot,
So
a lot.
yeah, I think Shakespeare did that one for me, and I've not still finished reading most of his books. Like Macbeth, I never read Macbeth. um Julius Caesar, I started Julius Caesar. Which one was the one that had witches? Was that Macbeth?
That was Macbeth, yes.
That means
There
I've
were
actually started
three
Macbeth.
scraggly old bitches.
Yeah, so yeah, some books that I feel like I would go back and read. The excitement that there are books that I haven't read is so good. Like,
I
I'm like, oh,
know.
cool, 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 more books to
And
read.
there's so many, many more books that you haven't read. You're like, how am I going to read all this in my lifetime? Can I read all this
Yeah.
in my lifetime?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And,
Okay,
and, and that
so
was really part of why I joined your book club. I was like, somebody is going to make me excited to read again. Thank you
yeah,
very
funny
much.
how that worked
I'm
out.
really grateful for that. Like that was a real boots up in my life. I needed it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for joining. Okay, so let's talk about current issues in the world. So we have like things like feminism, we have drug abuse, we have suicide, depression. Were there books that helped you to notice those things from a young age? Like you already started getting aware of these things even from a young age. Can you pinpoint any particular books that shaped that kind of view on life?
So yeah, like I said, C.S. Lewis did a lot for me, and then I was reading a lot of Christian literature at the time as well. So Christian writers, Ted Dekker, Frank Peretti, those guys too are very deep. I don't know if you've read any of them.
I've not read. The only Christian writer I've
They
read
really
is
get
Tim
into it.
Tim Lahaye. Was I don't know how to
Tim,
pronounce
okay,
it.
that was the end times. Man, those
Ah,
books scared me. God, I read them,
I
but I could not read again.
I have all of them on my laptop. Like we'll talk about that later. Anyway,
Okay. Okay, so um Ni- Nigerian African and African literature. I read Things Fall Apart when I was very little, but I didn't really like. You know, when you're small, you just read books and then they pass,
mm-hmm.
but it has kept something in the back of your head. I think the main character, what was his name?
Okonkwo.
One Okonkwo. His life story was, it was, there was something that was thick about it. Like we thank God for people like Achebe who
Mm,
introduced us to African stories, and now thank you for Amanda Adite.
yeah,
The way Okonkwo died, I mean that whole story talked about toxic masculinity, talked about the pressure of society on boys, talked about the women, how
colonialism.
it was that exactly there was so much in that. Well, it was when I read it again and I
You're
realized that
like,
okay, these things had really sunk. Like Okonkwo hung himself. And why? No, but it was sad, but it showed that he believed in something to the point where he couldn't believe
I
anything else.
yeah.
And it had to make me wonder, like, will I take my life because I believe in something so much? Like, is there any one belief that's worth that?
Like to just
Because
get to a point. Like I think, like you said, the society where he lived it was actually hard for him to like either you are either joining the belief or you are against it. Or
you're
like the
against
society
it.
we live in now, where you could just be like, you know what, I don't believe in this. Come and keep. I'm in my house. Beat me up. You can't do anything to me.
Exactly, exactly.
So yeah, go
Exactly,
on.
that was it. So there was Things Fall Apart. And I think I read that again in the book
The
club
book
again
club.
because I
Yeah, we
read it.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that was when things started really started to pace out for me. I remember this book where I read in secondary school called The Virtuous Woman, something. Did you read it too? It was about one
Yes,
Hausa. It was a Hausa story.
that was handy. She was handicapped. She had like a deformed leg.
Yeah, exactly. And then
Yeah.
she met this other Fulani guy. It was my first time encountering a non Yoruba
Northern.
Igbo,
Yeah.
non our side kind of story.
It
So
was
I like reading
refreshing.
things like
Yeah.
that. It was very refreshing and it was a good story too. Even though those olden days writers sometimes they only show things from one angle, but we could see that there were things that were missing in the stories.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like, did you read Malam Ilya?
I
Passport
didn't, and
of
I feel
Malam
really
Ilya.
sad. I
Mm.
didn't. I didn't. I know that there's a movie of it now. There's an animated movie of it.
Really?
Yeah,
I
because I remember a while ago I saw an an advert for voice actors to
hmm,
voice the Mona Lisa. They're doing an animated version of it.
that's
Do you remember
lovely.
Simbi or Simi? One girl that had Bantu nuts. It was an animated series like this about this girl that had Bantu nuts who lived in a village, and they were talking about her adventures with her children and her friends and her family.
No.
She's a very determined girl. African was an African story. You know those old tales by moonlight stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the book sort of blended together and gave me my African experience. And I remember I read Jane Eyre.
Jane
Jane
Eyre.
Eyre.
Jane Eyre.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was one of my first female focused books.
Mm.
And it was usually how determined they were to live life past their circumstance of what they were born
Exactly.
into,
Yeah.
become better than what they were. Those
Did
were
you
my
read
first.
The Secret Garden? I haven't still read that book, but I've
I
watched
did, I
it.
did, I did, but I can't remember anything in it now. I just remember
Yeah.
I read it.
Those are
And
like
something just
some
passed like
classic
that.
books I know that I have to reread them. Like
Did you read
I
Oliver
was
Twist?
yeah, I read Oliver Twist. I
I
read
read
Oliver
Oliver
Twist.
Twist.
In fact, I feel like I read that book twice. Did you read David Copperfield?
I did.
You know,
I
so they're
did,
like,
and then great expectations.
so like they're, I feel like we should just focus on authors because they're authors and then there are books that influence them. Like
And then
Charles
the
Dickens
series.
was like just awesome. And
Awesome.
like what's his name? George Orwell was another
1984. But
1984 and
his own
Animal
books were
Farm.
thick, oh. Animal Farm.
George Orwell was just too deep. Like we
It
read
was too, bro.
we read 1984 in school SS3. And at that time, even as I
Oh,
was already like at the peak of secondary school, a little bit mature, there were a lot of things in that book that passed me. Like I
it
was just
passed
reading a
through.
book, I'm like, oh, you know what? There's a big brother that watches people, you know. It was just exciting in that way. But reading that book again this year, like
I
I took,
saw how excited you were. I used to follow your WhatsApp status about it. Like you
oh
just
my
pick up certain things and you be
god.
like, this was mind blowing. How did I not see this?
Oh,
It was
actually,
scary, oh.
oh shit. Like when I read that book again, I was like, how is it that this guy is so relevant now? Is this even possible?
It's the exact same thing all over again.
Like 19, well, they said the book was written in 18, what was the date? Is it 1894? So he put like 100 years or something. I can't remember how it goes again, but it was a long time ago. So I was saying that nothing has changed, like history is just repeating itself. It made me just want to sit down and just like, okay, I'm done.
That, yeah.
And then I read Animal Farm because Animal Farm was written before
I
1984.
haven't read Animal Farm. I don't know why.
And I realized that
I know the story, but I haven't read.
Animal Farm was just basically 1984, but in a different form. Animal Farm,
It
yeah,
was
Animal
committing
Farm.
to that theme.
It wasn't like, oh, there was a big brother watching them or anything like that. But it was more like, okay, the different classes of people, one set of people trying to oppress the others and trying to make them like dictatorship. You know, George Orwell is all about dictatorship and trying to say, okay,
Yeah.
the things that people or the government does to make you think that you are trying to be patriotic, but you're actually being brainwashed and like Animal Farm is another deep book because he used animals
I have to
and
read it. I
it's
have
just
to read it.
like you're using animals and you're just trying to show us that okay, are you trying to say that human beings are just basically animals? Because the way he did that parallel
Might
was
be
so
true.
crazy.
It might be true. We
It
should
was
admit it
crazy.
now.
So yeah, like so you talked about the books that influence your feminism and your faith. So any other serious influences from your past reading?
um. Okay. Yeah. So I'm a Disney child. I don't know what that would
Same
mean to
here.
you, but oh, where's
That's
sister?
basically where I learned how to sing. Before I even joined the church choir, that's where I learned to sing. So,
How have I not known you before? It's as if we're separated at birth because what's going on? You get me now? So like
so
Disney, so watching the Disney movies now introduced me to old lore, old
folklore.
stories, the Brothers Grimm,
Yeah.
and I went to read the original stories of all those Snow White.
Uh,
God, they were bloody. Some of those
you
stories were
scarred
even nice at
yourself.
the beginning. As in Disney pimped them up for us. It was crazy. But Disney introduced me to a lot of history and and then movies generally. So I remember that I read the Alice in Wonderland books because of the movie. And I
Mm.
went back to read Matilda, the book of Matilda,
Oh,
because of the
yeah.
movie. So Roald Dahl, um, was that, let's say, was Lemony Snicket the writer? I don't know.
Who's
Just
that?
those old guys, you get those like C.S. Lewis guys who are writing purely children's content.
Okay, yeah, children's books.
I really enjoy all the old fairy tales, and even though like once again they're not our setting, so I have to keep shifting my brain that we don't have
Yeah.
snow in Africa.
Like I think for Disney and the fairy tale books, I just feel like they were writing for children or they were writing children's books because maybe that was the market that was booming at the time. But most of those stories are not necessarily children's stories. Like I
They
read some
never
of
are.
those
Children's stories
books.
are the best stories, and they're never actually for children.
Do you understand? Like there's so much to learn and there's so much to think about. Like
Mhm.
think about like the like for instance, did you ever read The Princess and the Pea?
Yes. I did a long time ago.
On the surface, it seems okay, you know what? She's just a spoiled princess who can feel the pea. on the bed, But then
Yeah.
going deep, you're asking yourself, okay, was there any other emotional thing involved? What will make somebody not want, like, not be able to sleep at night because of one
Mm-hmm.
tiny, so there's so many things to think about when you read those books. And as adults, I feel like I encourage adults to go back and read children's books before you introduce them to your children.
Yes,
Read
definitely.
them, read them,
So it's like you
because
can explain them to them.
do you understand? Don't just explain on the surface. Oh, there's this girl that met a prince, and then they live
Yes,
happy. That's just nonsense. Like,
yes.
think
You have to
about,
go deep into it.
go deep and understand what it's about. Don't portray to your children that it's just about being a princess and meeting a prince and living happily ever after. There are so many things in.
Exactly. It was my dad who first showed me the C.S. Lewis, the Narnia parallel.
Ooh, that's
He was
nice.
like, "Oh, Aslan is Jesus." I'm like, "Huh?" It was like, let me explain to you that Aslan is Jesus. The four children represent human beings. As I
Mm,
was like,
what?
you don't say.
Mind
It was a
blow.
revelation. I was like, how can someone do this so craftily?
Mm,
Because I know many people who legit stopped liking the Narnia series when they found out that it was a Christian parallel. I'm like,
yeah,
you're like, were they trying to preach to us? Were they proselytizing? I'm like, bro, it's a story. If you don't like it, bounce. Like, it was so good that you couldn't see it. Somebody had to point it
yeah,
out to you. That was how good it was.
exactly.
Yeah, they need to go back and read all these books because they're deep.
Like, somebody, a friend of mine, gave me, like, he gave me the series of a box set of all the Narnia books, all of them. When I saw that, I was like, my love for books came from the physical books, first of all. Like, I see a book and I'm like, oh my God. I don't care whether it's an academic book or anything. As long as it's a book, it has a smell, it can be flipped. I just love it. So
Yeah.
I started gathering diaries from a young age. Like, my sister would be like, you don't write anything in diary. Why are you gathering diaries?
My God.
It's just awesome. And then I books, like, up till now, I find it hard to read e-copies. Like, it's not the same.
It's
It's not
not,
the same
yeah, I
than just
get.
sitting down somewhere and just flipping your book, and it just has this feel to it. So yeah, like, I think that's where my love for books started. It started from the hard copy first before I even go inside. Shaping our view of life. I think that's the theme of this particular
Yeah,
conversation.
books shaping our view
Yeah,
of life.
and yeah, I feel like I'm glad that I read. There's some people that don't read at all. I don't know how they survive, but I'm glad.
Maybe movies do it for them. But even
Like,
then, you can't get the same kind of content.
you understand? Like, for a movie to
You
be on the
remember things
same.
from books more.
Thank you. And then for movies to be on the same level with books, then you have to tell me every single thing that the actor is thinking. And that's very hard to portray unless there's a voice constantly telling you what's going on. But with books, the
Exactly.
author can actually explore to the point where
Hmm.
you know the mind of the actors, you know other things. And like you said, anytime there's a book of a movie, most of the times, if I read the book first, I don't bother watching the movie because there's no point. I know that it's going to be
It's
I'm going to
going
be
to be,
shortchanged. But then if I read the movie, if I
yeah,
watch the movie first, then I can go and read the book. I know that okay, there's more to learn.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So is
But
there any
I judge books and movies on different because they are different media,
yeah.
and they both have their limitation. The reason why I don't really like watching a movie and then reading a book is that I now start to imagine the actors in that movie being the one doing everything in the book. So like when originally I would have done all the hard work in my head. Now it's easy for me. I'm like, why?
That's what
It's not
happens
interesting
with
anymore.
that's what happened with Half of the Yellow Sun. I watched the movie first before reading the
Oh,
book.
kind
Do you understand? So I was not seeing the actors and I was seeing their faces, Ugo, and everybody were just like, ah. But it stops your imagination. With books, you can imagine and
yeah.
figure out how you want the actors and people to look or the characters to look. But with movies, you just
Yeah.
yeah. So do you have anything else to say? Any notable books from the past that you're like, you know what, that book you've talked about C.S. Lewis and Narnia Chronicles, you talked about Lord of the Rings, you talked about
Mhm.
Harry Potter. So any other like notable books?
I don't know. I'll just say go back and read the old ones and try and read more African literature. There's so much I'm learning now that is our reality that I didn't really know before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Until then, though, I know that do you know Zikoko?
No,
It's
something.
like like a magazine, a literary magazine that publishes stories
No,
for
I
like
don't.
random people. So they
Mm,
publish stuff. So like that's like my African literature for now. I just go there and read.
mm,
Or Chimamanda. I don't know. I just read all the classics because new books most of them just sound the same. I don't know how to explain it. There are very few new writers who have like a unique voice because everybody tries to
mm.
sound like somebody else.
Yeah.
Do you get? Okay,
Um.
I could be wrong though because I don't read a lot of new writers. So let me
Exactly.
not
How many have
generalize.
you
For the
read?
class slap me. I know I know a
Yeah.
couple of writers. So let for the man give me baton like change your mind.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nedio Korafo. Right. I follow on Instagram. I've read only one of her books. Who Fears Death. But
yeah, I love that book. You gave me that
yeah,
book. I love it so
we
much.
read it on the
Okay,
book club.
I
Right.
I need to read it again now because of you.
The Who Fears Death. Right. So I follow her on Instagram, and when I started following her, I read more about her, and I found out that she has a lot of African, like she writes fantasy. We know that, and so it's
She has
refreshing
more
for me.
books.
Of course, she has more books.
Meadow.
She has
Jesus,
one.
we're wasting our lives.
Do you understand? She has one that is the I think the bin is it bin two or something. It's like a series. I think 3 books. Then there's another one, the Akata Witch, where she talks about. I think
Oh,
she's an albino person. The main character is albino, just almost like Who Fears Death. And there's so many other books, and you know why it's
there's
refreshing
so
for
many
me
other
because
books. Okay, I'm sorry.
Africa.
I take what I said back. New writers are good. I'm sorry for saying
Exactly.
that. Please forgive me.
And you know that Nadia Okorafor was the one that wrote some of the Black Panther comics or the stories in Black Panther.
Dude, I'm
Yes,
shook.
like especially the ones that had Shuri in it, the sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome,
Are you
right? So
kidding me?
it
She's
focuses on fantasy,
awesome.
which is different from people like Chimamanda and all that. And for me, it's refreshing because
Yeah.
Africa has such a rich tradition of, what we call juju and jazz. It's the same thing that
You
what's
get
her
me
name?
now.
Harry Potter, what's her name? Why am I forgetting her
It's
name?
juju
What's the
and jazz now. The same thing.
Is it not the
All
same
of it
thing?
the same magic.
It's the same
Uh,
thing. So why can't we
so
exploit
we need
our
to.
own culture
Yeah,
and do
exactly,
something good with it? And
exactly.
that is what the choreographer is doing. She's bringing the
Nidhi has
past
been
and
able
talking
to
about
do.
futuristic stuff. She talks about stuff about space,
Yeah.
but in an African kind of setting. It's wonderful.
And it
So
will be so much richer because the West has basically lived on Greek mythology and Norse mythology, and we're like, Africa
thank
alone
you.
has so much more variety than that.
Thank you.
Okay, I
So
guess. I'm sorry, I
yeah.
take it back. I will definitely go and
In
read
fact,
her
my
now.
new project is actually to get some of her books. And I'm
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 sorry, I
tired
got
of
distracted.
yeah, I'm tired of buying
I'm listening
ebooks.
to you.
So yeah, my project right now is whenever I have money, every month I buy one of her books or something, some African nice literature, something good. Yeah, we're drawing to the end of this particular
Um,
conversation. It's actually
I'm
a
sorry, can I
prequel.
butt in?
Yeah, go on.
I wanted to mention one book you sent to me. I think it was The Fourth Finger.
Yeah, uh-huh. We read in the book club,
Man,
yeah.
that book was another deep book, oh bro.
Was it that
It
deep?
talks it in I won't say it's deep, but I like books that show perspective on life in different stages than I used to. Most books
Mm.
are young people, teenagers, young adulthood. This book was how do middle aged people get by.
Yeah, married people and stuff like that. Yeah,
Exactly. So I like
that was a
perspectives
good
like that.
thing. It was a
That's
good
cool.
thing. But there were some parts of it that were cliche, some parts of it that were like eye rolling kind of okay. So yeah, but yeah, it was an overall good book. I liked that book. I think it was better than what's the other one, 29 Young and Single. That was the one
That
I
book
did
was
not like
dumb. I was like,
at all.
why is that why did I suggest this book? Like what
Like
is going on exactly?
and it was nice from the start. I like the way he started showing her childhood, that she suffered and all that. But then going forward, we were just like, what are we talking about here
It
again?
was not moving forward with sense.
And then the other one about my sister, the serial killer. That one
Oh, that one
too
was okay.
had
But
a good
it ended
storyline.
weirdly.
Do you understand? So I
The
feel
ending
like
was
authors
so
authors should focus on, yeah, it's good. I know it's not good to write. Like I've tried writing, I'm still trying writing, and it's not easy, right? It's not easy to write. But I think one advice, if I don't know if anybody wants to take my advice on writing because I'm not a writer, but I just feel like we should focus more on the beginnings and the endings of books should be strong.
yeah.
Because most times you have the idea in your head and you're like, oh, this
And
this
then
is gonna make sense.
it
And
just
then you start
fizzles out.
writing, the ending is just like meh, like okay, you understand. So yeah, I feel like that's one advice I'll give myself if I decide to actually
Mhm.
start writing. It's important that the beginnings and the endings make sense so that people can
Mhm.
be, the book ends with a bang. And yes.
All is well that ends well.
Yeah. So there's so many other books. I feel like this conversation will last like 2 hours if we want to talk about all the books that we've read. But
Exactly.
in my other videos I talked about my favorite author. Stephen King has always been my favorite
Oh,
author because
you have another video on that. I would definitely want to watch that.
oh, that's my
What
Q and
is your
A.
favorite book?
Oh, I don't. That's one thing I don't think I can answer. I don't think I can answer that. A
Your
favorite
favorite
book?
genre of books or group of books? I don't know how to
Okay, if
say
it's
it.
genre, right now fantasy and thriller. I still like fantasy and thriller because for some reason I just like being removed from the world and going to another world. Not every time.
But this
What
world is stressful, bro.
do you understand?
No,
Like things are already stressful
stressful.
enough. Let me just go to one fantasy land where there are ogres and dwarfs and stuff like that, and just yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I
yeah,
get it.
for now, I think I've a little bit away from the thriller and horror phase, but I will always go back there. Like right now, I have like 3 Stephen King books that I bought and I have not read, so I know I will definitely go
Jesus,
back. So
you are powerful. So powerful.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, those are my favorite genres of book. What about you?
I guess adventure and mystery.
Hmm, nice. The truth is, I can read anything as long as it's not
Right?
soaked in romance. If it's not soaked in romance, I can read it. Anyway, so thank you so much for joining me, Idono. It was a very lovely conversation. I do not want it to end, but it cannot go on forever.
We can continue like privately.
Yeah, and then we can
No
have more
problem.
conversations in the future. I'm sure most of my viewers will love this particular conversation. And you heard it here first. This is actually a prelude to another series of videos I'm going to be doing on my YouTube channel next year, which is review of books. So I'm actually, yeah,
I'm
because
going to love that one so much.
yeah, because book club has ended and I need something that would make me want
No,
to read more. So I'm going to start.
sad.
I'm going to start reviewing books, like read books and then come and talk about them and my take on books, my take on things. So yeah,
I would love to hear that.
yes, I'm glad about this conversation. It's like, oh, the beginning of
The
that.
opening
And
of the thing, eh?
yeah, and hopefully maybe we could read books and then talk about it together in another pajama
Oh, like
party.
joint book reviews. That's cool. I like
Exactly.
this. But I feel overdressed for this pajama party. Like I didn't wear pajamas.
She I told you it was a pajama party.
Wow, wow. I will never do this again. Lesson learned.
But you look beautiful, so it's fine. You are forgiven.
Thank you. You look gorgeous too.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, so thank you so much for joining me. And viewers, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and tell us your take on this particular conversation. What are the books that influenced your life? What are the notable books, your favorite authors, your favorite genres? Thank you so much for watching. Idono, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you,
And
Yame.
yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.